Hey guys, welcome in the new year. Today I want to show you how to correct gradients in GIMP. I usually don't use gradient correction tool in serial because it doesn't give good results, even though I try to set the samples very carefully to avoid any stars or parts of nebulae. Still, after gradient correction in serial, I'm receiving weird colorful spots. So most of the time I correct gradients on my astrophotos using GIMP. So for the purpose of today's tutorial, I will use a photograph I took with my third setup. Recently I managed to set the third setup with ED80, Skywatcher's ED80 telescope with the flattener and Canon 450D, modded Canon 450D. So the object I was imaging with this setup was M35. If we look at lights, one exposure was 120 seconds, and I took about 40 exposures, sub-exposures. So one light looks like this. There are many dust spots on the sensor, but this is not a problem because I took flats, and after taking flats, this is the stack. This is the stack already after calibration, after correcting vignetting and so on. So all the dust spots, of course, are gone, but what remains is the gradient from light pollution. Here is in the lower left corner, it is brighter. In the upper right corner, it is darker. So I will show you how to correct such a simple gradient in GIMP. So let me switch to GIMP now. This is the photo already processed, especially stars. The stars, it took me some time to process the stars. But we will not be talking about stars today. I will be talking about the gradient. So first what I will do is I will copy, because the stack, of course, after stacking in Deep Sky Stacker, I stretched and I color calibrated and stretched the image in serial without any gradient correction in serial. And I run StarNet to remove stars from the stack. So as a result, I am getting the file, the starless file, and the file with stars, and the file with stars, and the starless file. So we will be correcting the gradient on the starless version of the image. So first I will copy, edit and copy and paste as new image the starless version, and I will also copy the layer with stars, which are already corrected. Copy, edit, paste as new layer, and I will set the blending mode of the layer with stars to addition, to add them to the layer with the background. Okay, so first thing which I will do is, as usual, I will duplicate the layer. And now to correct the gradient, I need to choose color picker tool. To change the size of the color picker, you have to press right Alt key and rotate your mouse button. So I have to set the colors of the brightest color and the darker color. We can see that the gradient is linear. It goes from the lower left corner to the upper right corner. It is darkest in the upper right corner and lightest in the lower left corner. So first I click left mouse button in the lower left corner. The color of this part of the image is set as the foreground color. Now I change foreground and background, and this is my foreground now, my foreground color, and as the second color I will set the darkest color. So I have the darkest and the brightest colors of this image, of the background. So now what I will do is I will add two layers. The first layer, it doesn't matter with which color I will fill it, but the second layer I will fill with the darker color. So in this case, the foreground color, right now the foreground color is set to the darker one, so I will fill it with the darker color. And I will set the blending mode of this third layer to addition. And I will hide this layer for now. As for the second layer, the one which is directly above the layer with the background, as for the second layer, I will fill it with gradient, with the artificial model of the gradient we see in the background. So how to do it? I choose the gradient tool and I fill this layer with gradient, but I'm not clicking and I'm not pressing enter, I'm not clicking anything, and I set the blending mode of the second layer to subtract. Now what is happening is that the values of the gradient are subtracted from our original image, but because the colors from here and here are very similar, actually they're identical to the colors on the original image with the gradient, so the outcome of the subtraction is 0. And we don't want zeros, because 0 means black background, completely black, and we don't want completely black background. We want a background which has details, which is not completely black. So this is the reason why I'm adding the third layer in addition blending mode, to add an offset, to add a pedestal, to avoid zeros in the subtraction of the second layer. So I activate the layer with gradient, and I also activate the layer with this offset value set to addition. And now if I move the handles which set the position of the gradient, you can see that the gradient changes. The way the gradient is removed changes. If I move the handle, the image is corrected according to the position of the artificial background, of the artificial model of the gradient. So, and you can play with it, and this is actually the most fun of this method, because you can see during your work, you can monitor what effects does it give, what effects it provides. So I think right now the positions of the handles are okay, because the frame, the image looks better, the gradient is corrected. So now I press enter, and that's it. We have corrected the gradient on this photo. Now I press new from visible, and we can compare what is the difference between the image with the corrected gradient and the original image. As you can see, on the original image, the gradient is quite pronounced, and in the corrected image, there is no gradient at all. And this was exactly my goal. I can try to measure the values in this image, because the color picker tool can also be used not only for setting the foreground and background colors, but also for measuring the values of colors in the image. So if I press and hold the Shift key, I can measure the values in this particular spot where I have the cursor. So in the lower left corner, I have 11% the value. Here is also 11%. Here is 8, 9, 10. Yes, I think here is 8, 9, and here is almost 12. Okay, so we can do another step of gradient correction. So here we have in the upper part of the image, we have slightly darker values, and in the lower part of the image we have slightly brighter values of the background. So what I can do is I can make another step of gradient correction. So with the color picker still active, I will set the darker, right? This is darker, this is brighter. Actually, it doesn't matter which value I choose first. It's just important to have these two separate values set, one as the foreground and the second as the background. So let me sample. Yes, this is brighter, this is darker. Okay. So as a foreground, I set the brighter value. As background, I set the darker value. And now I will add again another layer filled with foreground color. This will be the layer which I will fill with gradient in a moment. I will add another layer which will serve as a pedestal, and this time it should have, it's not necessary, but I usually take the darker version. So let's fill this layer with foreground color. Let's set the blending mode of this layer to addition. This one I will fill with gradient, and it was brighter at the lower part and darker at the upper part. So like this. No, the opposite way. Oop. Oh. Something like this. And now if I set the blending mode to subtract, it will again it will subtract this artificial model of background from this layer with background. And if I activate the layer with the pedestal value of the background, then the image will not be black anymore. So again, I can play a little bit. Oh, wait. It's not here. Oh, my battery is running very low. But I will finish it. I must finish the video as soon as possible. Okay, so I will be playing a little bit with the gradient which I created on the second layer. And again, if I move the handles, you can see that the brightness of the image is changing. So again, I can adjust the position of the artificial gradient in a way which allows for best correction of the remaining gradient. So let's assume this one is okay. New from visible. And now we can check the values again. Here is 8, 9, and here is 9. Okay, I think it's about 10%. The difference, the values of the background in the upper part and in the lower part is about 10%, so I think we can call the job finished. Let's compare the corrected background with the original one. So this one is with the gradient from light pollution, and this one is completely corrected. If I add the stars, I will have the finished image with corrected gradient. Whew, okay, so this is it for now. So we have an image with completely corrected background without any gradient from light pollution. If we add the stars, we have finished image which we can save as JPEG and publish somewhere on the net. Okay guys, so this is it for now. I hope you will find my video interesting and helpful. Thank you for your attention and see you next time.